Hello and welcome back. We continue our lecture on Chapter 3, Understanding the Resident. We are going to discuss Section 3, discussing the family roles and their significance in the healthcare. There are many kinds of families that we come across in our lifespan. We have your typical nuclear families, when you have your mom, your dad, and your kids. That's your typical nuclear family. You have single parent families, very common nowadays. You have single mom and kids, you have single father and kids. Now you have even mixed couples. We have the opposite sex, married or committed couples of the same sex. You have extended families, which is your brothers or your cousins, your uncles. Those are extended family. And of course we have now blended families, which is also very common. You have mom and her kids, dad and their kids, and they all come together and they form a Brady Bunch or a blended family. Now, what is the function of families in the care of the resident? Well, in our culture, it is very important. When one person gets sick, it's not a one-person event. In Hispanic culture, it's a family event. All right, everybody shows up to see a ill person. Okay, which is, I think it's a beautiful thing. You can see the support from family towards that individual. And I've seen the opposite, when there's an individual that's ill and there's no family support. That takes a big emotional and psychological toll on the person. So there's a lot that family can do for them. For example, in our culture, families play a big role in deciding the decisions for healthcare. For example, from experience, I can tell you that every time a doctor will ask a patient, well, what would you like to do, sir? The patient in a Hispanic culture will automatically direct that decision to a daughter or son. In most cases, it's actually a daughter. So again, this is the impact that family has in healthcare, in our culture at least. Communicating with the care team. When you communicate something to the resident, you must also communicate it to the family. Why? Again, it's a family affair. It's not just about the patient. We give support, family gives support and encouragement to that person. And that, I think, it's one of the most important things. When a family comes in, the person just feels that love, that sense of belonging that we have when we're home. Well, now they're in a facility, and that sense of belonging is not quite there. But when they show up, it is a great thing, a beautiful thing to see. Connecting to the outside world. Now, we talk about long-term care. When a person is in a long-term care facility, in the beginning, families visit quite often, and then it just kind of fades away. It comes to a point where they show up once a month or not very much. But when they do show up, they usually bring news. They update the residents on what's going on in the family. Any new weddings, any social events, etc. This is very exciting. So the connection to the outside world is very important, from the family to the resident. They give reassurance to the resident that they will go back. Many residents, when they come to a long-term care facility, they believe that that's the end of life, that they're been thrown in there and they're going to stay there and they're never going home. So when family comes back and reassures them, that makes them feel better. That makes them work towards that goal of going home. And sometimes we can use that to our advantage. When a resident is feeling down, that doesn't want to participate, or they just don't feel that good, we can kind of push them over that small hump by reinforcing that goal, reminding them of that goal, that they want to go home. So think about it. Family plays a big role in our culture. Now, the stages of human growth and development, Section 7, okay? We all go through these. But it's important for you to understand. Now, we're adults already. So we've kind of left our younger years before us, and our better years are coming ahead. So wherever stage in life you are, you may be a 20-year-old, 30, 40-year-old, you have certain things, certain what they call milestones that you will accomplish. For example, when you were born, one of the main goals is growth. Babies start growing from their head and in their body. So if you notice young kids, you notice that the head is kind of bigger than the body. They look kind of awkward. But that's just the way the body develops. So from birth to 12 months, the main goal of a human being is to grow. All right? Grow and develop quickly. Next 2 years, 3 years, the toddler years, right? The terrible 2s and 3s. What is the main goal for these kids? before they were so dependent on us, right? The parents. We have to feed them, we have to clothe them, we have to change their diapers and all those things. Now they're going to be a little bit more independent, right? They may be already walking around, right? Stumbling around and falling, exploring. That is what they do. Now they're gaining more independence and body control. What is that one thing we all dread on the terrible 2s and 3s? Tantrums. Why do these kids do tantrums? Why? Because they want to feel in control. They're starting to explore the power they have upon us when they do a tantrum, right? They do a tantrum, we baby them, we fall for that, and they learn quickly that they can, control us with those behaviors. So kids are not, all that innocent. They play these games with us, and we fall flat on our face for them. They learn to speak, to gain coordination. They even start to learn bowel and bladder control. Potty training, we have to take them, right? Routine, right? We'll come back to that. Preschool years. Once they start going to Head Start or the preschool years, what are their main accomplishments is to become more social. They start to mingle with other little kids and learn to play cooperatively. And of course, learn language. They start to talk and learn other words, perhaps maybe incorrect words. They learn right from wrong, right? From 3 to 6 years. This is when the kid or the child develops their conscience. This is when they know that they did something wrong. They realize it. We have to make them aware that they are doing something wrong. This is where they learn it. The school age years, 6 to 10 years old. At this stage in life, most kids will now be able to learn more complex tasks. For example, learning how to do math, learn how to do reading. They can think and learn actually more complicated tasks. They start to get along with others in peer groups, such as like in kindergarten, first grade. They start to play and work in groups, do assignments in a group session. They develop a conscious and of course self-esteem. This is very important. When a child, which is in the first grade, kindergarten level, and they come to mom and dad and they show you those ugly drawings of the family and the house, we have to give them that positive reinforcement. Make them feel good about themselves. Build their self-esteem. It is very important that we do this so that the child can continue to grow with a positive image of themselves. Very important. The pre-adolescence years, ages 10 to 13. At this point, the child is starting to grow a more conscious, grow more self-conscious about their appearance. Okay, you see the young kids when they start to dress a little bit better, they maybe perhaps start to grow more conscious about their physical appearance, right? They want to maybe look good for others, right? They start with a puppy love, there's emotions, sexuality, remember? So they continue to identify with other peers, and they start to mingle with particular groups of kids, especially in those middle school years. Imaginary fears goes away. They know now the difference between a fairy tale and the real world. They now know between life and death. So there's a lot of things that are happening, not to mention the hormonal changes that occur. Okay, these hormonal changes create a lot of versatility in their emotions. Okay, at one point they're in a good mood and then they're upset. It becomes difficult for them to handle. It's not them, it's their body going through changes. As they get older, young adulthood years, 19 all the way to 40. Now this is a big gap. Anything can happen between the stage, but right after high school, we're supposed to select an education. We'd go to college or career training or something along the lines, but you should be able to select that at least, in the middle, in the beginning of your young years. Select and live with a mate as you get older, serious about relationships. Of course, you start to have a family, perhaps in your mid-20s or 30s. Start to raise children, and of course, you develop a satisfying lifestyle with your partners. Middle adulthood years, 40 to 65. You're supposed to be more comfortable, more stable in every aspect. Emotionally, financially, education should be done, etc. So everybody goes through different phases. You may reach this stage later or before then. It just depends. Physical changes start to appear. Your skin doesn't look as smooth and tight as it used to. Your hair starts to thin. You lose your hair. You get white hair. All these physical changes start to come about in your 40s, usually. With society or the media, we learn a lot of negative things about aging. Young kids that see us, the parents, they see us age, and then they start to think that we get sick when we're really not sick. We're just getting a little bit older. And they ask you, are you sick? No, why would I be sick? Well, I don't know, you're old. They think that 40s is old, right? So they may ask you this because they see this on television and they believe it as true. So sometimes we have to, re-educate them. Tell them that aging is not a disease. It's just a stage in life, okay? Older adults have many different capabilities. When we get older, it doesn't mean we're just going to go home and sit in a rocking chair and live to die. There's a lot of things that happen in lifestyle, but we'll talk more about this in just a minute.